All right, everyone. Hello and welcome in. Today, I'd like to have a brief discussion about the outcome of the Minnesota Vikings 2021 season. And this isn't an official prediction video per se, but today I'd like to get the pulse of our audience here on this channel and see what we think of this team and what do we think that this team can accomplish this year. Because there's been some varying opinions over the last few days that I've noticed on social media, and that's sort of, the point of departure for this video. That this team is either a playoff team, it could be a Super Bowl contender, or there is also the other side of the fence that where people believe that this team just isn't good enough yet, and we're going to struggle to get back to the postseason and potentially miss the postseason for the second straight year, which would be the first time that that's ever happened during the Mike Zimmer era. So a few days ago, Anthony Barr provided a very interesting quote where he believes that this Minnesota Vikings, as it is right now, is a Super Bowl contender. And that sort of jettisoned a conversation on social media for the last few days, which I've just been scrolling through randomly, noticing, some very good arguments for why that is, and also some good arguments for why that is not. So I propose that question to you. Can this team be a Super Bowl contender in 2021 as the roster is right now? As far as my opinion goes, I think there are definitely some pros and cons to this situation, and I'm going to spell that out for you right now. And feel free to agree or disagree with some of these points that I'm going to make. So there is definitely reason to believe that this team is going to be better in 2021. There's no doubt about that. But are they quite up to Super Bowl contender status yet? I myself would disagree. But there are definitely some arguments to be made, as we've said, that you could point to and say, hey, these changes have been made. These things are better. This is the situation going in. This team can definitely compete for a Super Bowl. What are those situations and changes that they've made? Well, the most obvious one is the defense is going to be much better than it was last year. I know we can say that, right now on paper it's great, but we have to wait until that translates to the field. I would be shocked if it doesn't translate to the field. I would literally be shocked considering we have a defensive-minded head coach. This is, the offseason of defense for the Minnesota Vikings, where we really spent a lot of money in free agency on defense, and we got some key players in the draft that are going to help out long term. And we also have some players that we got in last year's draft that are hopefully going to take the next step, i.e. Cam Dantzler. So we went out in free agency. We solved the problem of the interior defensive line, right? Gone are the days of Julio Johnson, Shamar Stephen. We bring in Sheldon Richardson. We're going to get Michael Pierce back from the opt-out season. Dalvin Tomlinson comes in. Danielle Hunter comes back from injury. Stephen Weatherly is returning after a year. I believe it was 1 year with the Carolina Panthers. Might have been 2. And we're going to have a rotational situation as of right now on the other side of the defensive line with Weatherly, DJ Wanham, and whoever else might be, maybe some of the rookies like Patrick Jones or Janarius Robinson. There was also a great interest for the Vikings in retooling the secondary after an experimental season did not work out where they tried to rebuild through the draft, right? Jeff Gladney is currently not available, and Cam Dantzler has some injury concerns after missing 5 games last year, even though we all hope and expect him to do better this year. So they go out, they get some veteran guys, Bashaud Breeland, Patrick Peterson, Mackenzie Alexander is coming back, Xavier Woods will replace Anthony Harris. This defense on paper looks much better. I completely expect it to definitely surpass expectations and definitely perform better than the 2020 season did, because that defense was just brutal, and it was completely destroyed at the end by Alvin Kamara on Christmas Day when he gifted us a huge lump of coal in the term of a record-tying touchdown performance from a running standpoint. So what else works in favor for the Minnesota Vikings? Well, the division right now is very questionable because we don't know the future of Aaron Rodgers. If Aaron Rodgers does not play for Green Bay this season, I think we should be considered the favorites to win the NFC North. I really do. Whether that takes 10 wins or more is up for debate, but given the state of the Detroit Lions, who I would argue have one of the worst rosters outside of Houston in the league currently, and the situation in Chicago where Matt Nagy and Ryan Pace are currently playing for their jobs, and we don't know how soon or not soon we're going to see Justin Fields. The situation in Chicago, I think, is more volatile than we've really talked about over the last few months. So Detroit and Chicago, in my mind, are out, even though that I would still consider them very dangerous, and Chicago especially could sneak up on us and have another good season. Green Bay, on the other hand, I don't know quite what to make of them if Jordan Love has to start the entire season. But Green Bay is still Green Bay, and I guess I would say that until they're officially dead, I'm not ruling them out either. It'd be like the guy at the end of Die Hard where he's like hanging there by his neck, and then by the end of the movie he comes back, right? You think he's dead, but he's not. But I would have to argue that if Aaron Rodgers doesn't play, Minnesota Vikings should win this division. Things that are working against us, and I think the biggest issue is that the offensive line is still not good. And people are going to say, whoa, how can you say it's not good? You know, we addressed the offensive line with, prime draft capital, getting Christian Darrisaw, Wyatt Davis is coming in. Yeah, that's good. Those are two great acquisitions. The problem is we didn't get, or were not able to afford, any veteran presence or any, sort of a veteran to come in and take one of these positions that we struggled at during free agency, right? We missed out on all of the free agent guards. Could we still bring one in? Yeah, maybe. But I think that bringing back Rashad Hill, Dakota Dozier, Drew Samia is getting first team reps during OTAs and mandatory minicamp is kind of concerning. So I'm not convinced that we have taken a unit on the offense and improved it yet. I would have to see that actually in action. Remember, Riley Reiff had a very good season last year. He is gone. We're expecting a rookie to come in on a team with a head coach that probably doesn't like rookies very much. I would argue that that's the case, and expect him to excel, protect Kirk Cousins' blind side, one of the more important positions on offense other than the quarterback position itself. The interior offensive line was bad last year. We're bringing back a lot of the same pieces, plus a third-round draft pick who did not excel or live up to expectations at Ohio State in 2020. Let's just be honest about it. Garrett Bradbury is not a good center. Ezra Cleveland is still trying to figure out his position. He was originally drafted as an offensive tackle at Boise State, and there was uncertainty about where he would play, and last season it kind of showed. He did okay, good enough to sort of be a front runner for one of the starting guard positions, and that is not really up for debate. But Drew Samia, Dakota Dozier, if any of these guys get extended playing time with a rookie at left tackle, I think that offensive line is ripe to be exploited. Can you get to the playoffs with that offensive line? Yeah, sure, we've done it before. The 10-6 season, that offensive line wasn't that great, and we still got to the playoffs and snuck one out against the Saints. And then what happened, right? We show up to San Francisco and absolutely get steamrolled because the offensive line just isn't good enough. And I feel like we're doing that again. I've been making videos about the Vikings for about 3 years now. The very first video that I ever made went up to a Facebook podcast group that we don't really use anymore. But the first video I ever made was saying that the offensive line was not good enough. And that was 3 years ago. And we're still having that same conversation today. So, do I think that this team can get back to the playoffs? Absolutely. Like I said, if you believe in the superstitions of even and odd number years, this is the year for the Minnesota Vikings because it's an odd number year. Ever since the Mike Zimmer era started, odd number years are good, even number years are bad. And we've seen that, 2017, 2019, really good playoff teams with playoff runs. And then, 2018 and 2020, we kind of want to not talk about. At least, we don't want to go in depth about it. So let me know what you think in the comments below. Is this a Super Bowl contender? Do you agree with Anthony Barr? I think the hype is, important, but I think we need to, stay grounded in reality, keep our expectations in check. There are a lot of things that are definitely working in our favor in terms of the division, in terms of the defense being retooled, and in terms of, having a lot of great weapons on offense where we can definitely put up points. So let me know what you think in the comments below. Is this a playoff team this year? Do you believe that this team can get back to the playoffs? I certainly do, given the situation with the division, especially if Aaron Rodgers is no longer in it. And it's an odd number year, and I would expect Mike Zimmer to not falter 2 years in a row. So that's going to do it for this video. Thank you very much for watching. I will see you in the next one.